Hey everyone, in this quick 10-minute tutorial, I'm going to break down CSS Flexbox in a super simple way. Whether you're just starting out or want to refresh, this is the perfect guide for you. We're going to learn how to center elements with Flexbox, how to use flex direction for row and column layouts, how to align items and content in different ways, how to create spacing and wrap elements, how to target first and last children properties, how to use flex grow and shrink elements, and how to center elements in divs. But first, let's quickly set up the HTML. So what is Flexbox? Flexbox is a layout system in CSS that makes it super simple to align and arrange elements. It's flexible, hence the name, and it's great for creating responsive layouts without writing a ton of code. First, let's add CSS elements to make the divs more visually pleasing. So let's make the width and height 100 pixels, and the border green, and the background color green-yellow. Now we're ready to begin. When you're building a web page and you want to center something in the center of the screen, both top to bottom and right to left, the first step you need to make is to make sure your page is tall enough. That's where height 100 VH comes in. The VH stands for viewpoint height, so 100 VH means that the element should take up 100% of the screen's height. This gives Flexbox enough space to center things properly. Next, use Flexbox to center your elements. To start using Flexbox, you just need to apply display flex to any apparent element like this. Now we can apply properties like justify content center to center horizontally and align item center to center items vertically to make your layout look clean and centered. Now you can finally answer with confidence you know how to center a div. Alright, now let's talk about justify content in Flexbox. This property controls how flex items are spaced along the main axis, which is usually horizontal from left to right. Here are the main values you can use. Flex start. This pushes all your items to the left side of the container. Flex end. This moves all your items to the right side. Center. This centers all your items in the middle of the container. Space between. This spreads the items out so that the first item is at the start, the last item is at the end, and the rest are evenly spaced in between. Space around. This gives each item equal space around it. That means that the space on the outer edges is half the size of the space between the items. Finally, space evenly. This gives equal space between and around every item, even on the outer edges. So basically, justify content is about how you line up your boxes from left to right inside the Flex container. Now let's look at align items. This property controls how items are aligned along the cross axis. That's the opposite side of the main axis. So if your items are in a row, left to right, then align items affect the vertical alignment from top to bottom. Here's what each value does. Flex start lines all the items up at the top of the container. Center places items in the middle vertically. Flex end pushes items to the bottom of the container. Finally, stretch. This is a default. Items stretch to fill the container vertically if no height is set. This is super useful for making sure your content is nicely aligned vertically throughout the page. In Flexbox, all the items normally try to stay in one single row, but if there's too many to fit, like when you add 10 boxes, they're squished together unless you tell them that they're allowed to wrap. So far, we've been working with just a few boxes, but now let's add 7 more boxes to make the total of boxes 10. You'll start to see a problem. Flexbox tries to keep all the boxes in one row, so they'll get squished together if there's not enough space. Now, why is this a problem? First, it looks messy. Boxes get too small or overflow. Second, it's hard to control layout spacing. Third, on smaller screens like phones, it's even worse. To let items move to the next line, just use Flex Wrap. Now, the items will automatically wrap onto a new line when needed. This is super useful for responsive layouts or pages that work on phones, tablets, and desktops. You can also use Wrap Reverse, same as wrap, but a new line appears above instead of below. No wrap, default, everything stays on the same line even if squished. And for View Wrap, items wrap onto a new line of code when needed. Since we have 10 box diffs inside the Flex container, you'll clearly see how justified content affects how the space is distributed along the main axis left to right. Justified content space around. All boxes have equal space around them, which means that they're half the space on the ends, left and right edges. Next, justify content space between. Boxes are spread out to use all the space. The first box hugs the left and the last box hugs the right, and all the others are spaced evenly between. Now finally, justify content space evenly. All boxes include the edges have perfectly even spacing. This is the most balanced and modern layout for most things like or grids. Sometimes when you're using Flexbox, you might want to style just the first box or the last box in a row. Maybe you want to give them a little extra space, change their color, or move them to the edge. You can simply do this by using the special CSS selectors. First child means only the first box, or last child means only the last box. Here's an example. Imagine you have 3 boxes in a Flex container, and you want the first box to go all the way to the left, and the last box to go all the way to the right. You can use margins like this. You can give the first child a margin right auto, and just to make it stand out, we'll just make it a different color. And then you can give the last child margin left auto and a different color as well to make it stand out. This creates space between them and pushes them to the opposite side. Now, why is this even useful? When Flexbox aligns everything in a row, sometimes you want special positioning. Targeting the first and last children lets you do things like creating space between the first and last item, styling different edges, and controlling the layout without changing HTML. There's extra space in the container. FlexGrow tells the boxes how much of that space they should take. If every box has FlexGrow 1, they will all grow equally. If one box has FlexGrow 2, it will grow twice as big as the others. Now imagine there's not enough space. FlexShrink controls how much each box should shrink. If all the boxes have FlexShrink 1, they will shrink equally. However, if one box has FlexShrink 0, it won't shrink at all. Now, this is where FlexBasis comes in. It sets the box as starting size. So if you say FlexBasis 200 pixels, it tries to be 200 pixels wide before growing or shrinking. Now, Flex Shorthand, instead of writing all 3 grow, shrink, and bases, you can just write one line of code. Flex 1, 200 pixels. That means it can grow, it can shrink, and it starts at 200 pixels wide. This makes your layout more flexible and works well on all screen sizes. Thanks for watching. We've now covered how to center content using Flexbox, which includes using display flex on a container, setting justified content and align items to center, and making sure the container takes up enough space with something like 100 VH. This allows any element inside to be perfectly centered both horizontally and vertically. Flexbox makes layout so much simpler and more flexible. We also explored things like wrapping, spacing with gap, using FlexGrow and Shrink, targeting first and last items, and other helpful layout tricks. If you enjoyed this and learned something new, I've got more videos like this on the way and some already on the channel, so feel free to check them out. Leave a like or a comment with what you want to learn next. So thanks again, keep coding, see you next time.